Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a deep dive into something that's relevant, whether you're closing, million-dollar deals or just trying to convince your roommate to do the dishes. Negotiation.
Yes.
Our source today is an episode of Margin World that focuses on negotiation in business. And trust me, this one is packed with insights that can apply to just about any situation you can think of.
It's pretty amazing how much negotiation really does impact our lives.
Yeah.
Even beyond the super obvious stuff like salaries and contracts.
Right.
Margin World really shines a light on how it's kind of woven into the fabric of everyday life.
Absolutely. And one of the most surprising takeaways for me from this episode was the emphasis on listening. I always kind of had this idea in my head that to be a good negotiator, you just had to be like a smooth talker.
Yeah.
But Margin World makes a really, really strong case for active listening being like the secret weapon.
What I found so fascinating was how they connect active listening to uncovering hidden needs. They use this example of a supplier who's really resistant to lowering their prices.
Okay.
And on the surface, it looks like you're just completely stuck.
Right.
But by really listening to the supplier, you might discover that their hesitation is actually coming from seasonal cash flow issues.
Gotcha. Like there's something deeper going on
Exactly.
than just I'm not going to lower the price.
Right. And that opens up this opportunity for a more creative solution.
Okay.
So instead of just demanding a lower price, maybe you offer to pay up front in exchange for a small discount.
Right. It meets their needs.
Yeah.
And gets you closer to your goal.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
I love those.
That's kind of a recurring theme in Margin World.
Yeah.
They really emphasize that negotiation shouldn't be a battle, but more of a collaborative search for solutions.
I like that.
Yeah.
So, okay, active listening is key.
Yeah.
But Margin World also stresses the importance of preparation. They actually compare going into a negotiation unprepared to walking into battle blindfolded.
A
Little dramatic.
A little bit. Yeah.
But I get the point.
It's a powerful analogy.
Right.
They tell the story of Sarah, who's a tech entrepreneur.
Okay.
And she's pitching her startup to this notoriously tough investor.
Oh, boy.
Now, most people would just focus on the product itself,
Yeah, just how great their product is.
Right. But Sarah went deeper. She actually did her research on the investor's portfolio.
Oh.
And realized that this investor had this strong preference for companies that could show a proven user base.
Okay. Interesting.
So she didn't just go in there and talk about how amazing her product was.
Yeah.
She actually came armed with data.
Wow.
That showed impressive user retention and growth potential.
So she basically spoke the investor's language.
Exactly. That's the key.
Yeah.
Preparation lets you anticipate the other party's needs.
Right.
And then tailor your approach accordingly.
It makes
It's like a chess game. The more moves you think ahead, the better your chances of success.
That's a good way to put it. Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
Oh, tell me more.
Margin World introduces the concept of anchoring.
Ooh.
Now, I'd heard this term before,
Yeah.
but the way they broke it down was totally eye-opening.
Yeah. Anchoring is all about setting the initial terms to frame the entire negotiation. They use this example of Mark, who's this executive negotiating his salary for this new job he's going for.
Gotcha.
So instead of waiting for the employer to make the first offer, he came in strong, anchoring with this high number that was based on industry benchmarks and his own stellar track record.
So he had the receipts to back it up.
Exactly. So even though the employer countered with a lower offer, it was still way higher than what Mark probably would have gotten if he'd let them set the anchor.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That is really sneaky.
It's this subtle psychological tactic, but it can have a huge impact on the final outcome. Margin World even suggests using a decoy offer as a way to further influence the other party's perception of value.
A decoy offer.
It's that.
So it's offering an intentionally unattractive option to make your preferred choice seem more appealing by comparison.
Ooh, okay. That's brilliant.
It's a little sneaky,
But brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, now in our increasingly globalized world, Margin World dedicates a significant chunk to navigating cultural nuances in international deals.
Yeah.
This is something I've personally struggled with in the past.
It's an area where even experienced negotiators can really stumble.
Yeah.
They tell the story of Emily, who's this American businesswoman trying to secure a joint venture deal in China.
Okay.
And she went in with her usual Very direct to the point style.
Which is very common in American business culture.
Exactly. But it wasn't well received.
Oh.
Because in China, building relationships and trust is like paramount, right? So she had to completely shift her approach.
She did. She started by like having dinners with the stakeholders.
Okay.
Engaging in just like casual conversation. Really getting to know them on like a personal level before even mentioning the deal specifics.
So it was all about building that relationship first.
Exactly.
I see.
And that cultural sensitivity paid off.
Good for her.
The Chinese partners were so impressed by efforts to understand their customs that it actually led to a much more favorable agreement.
Wow. So it's not just about being polite.
Right.
It's actually like a strategic advantage.
It really is. Margin World encourages listeners to research cultural norms, like communication style, nonverbal cues, decision-making processes, all that kind of stuff.
All that stuff. You don't want to go in blind.
Right.
Okay, now another concept they delve into is leverage.
Ooh, yeah.
It's all about understanding the power dynamics in a negotiation.
Margin World emphasizes that leverage can be both tangible and intangible. So it might come from having a unique product or service, or from understanding the other party's like vulnerabilities and needs.
Okay.
They even challenge this common assumption that the party with more money or authority automatically hold all the cards.
Interesting. Because you would think that would be the case.
You would think so.
But they're saying it's not always.
It's not always.
Okay.
They give this example of a client who accounts for like a huge chunk of your revenue.
Okay, big client.
Yeah. So on the surface, it seems like they have all the leverage, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
But what if their whole business model depends on your product or service? What if they literally can't afford to lose you as a supplier?
Okay. Then the tables have turned.
The power dynamic shifts.
Yeah. It's like that quote, "He who has the gold makes the rules until someone else has the water."
Exactly.
That's a good one.
Margin World encourages listeners to think critically about power dynamics, identifying their own leverage points and anticipating how the other party might perceive the balance of power. They also introduce the concept of BTNA.
GDNA, what's that?
Your best alternative to a negotiated agreement.
Oh, okay.
Which is a crucial factor in determining your leverage.
Okay.
Basically, having a strong BTNA gives you more confidence to walk away from a deal that isn't meeting your needs.
Right.
Which in itself can be a powerful form of leverage.
Yeah, because you have other options.
Right.
Okay, now this next part really resonated with me. The role of emotional intelligence. Margin World argues that negotiation isn't just like this logical game.
Yeah.
Emotions play a huge role.
I agree with that.
It's about understanding your own emotions and those of the other party.
And they highlight the importance of EQ.
EQ, emotional intelligence.
Right.
And how it can actually lead to better outcomes.
They give the example of this really tense negotiation where tempers are flaring.
Ooh, I can feel that.
Right. So instead of reacting defensively, a skilled negotiator with high EQ might acknowledge the frustration, validate the other party's feelings, and then gently steer the conversation back to like shared goals.
So instead of getting caught up in the emotion, they're kind of rising above it.
Exactly. It's about de-escalating conflict,
Yeah.
building rapport, and ultimately finding those win-win solutions.
I like that.
And Margin World suggests that emotional intelligence can actually be developed through things like self-awareness, empathy, active listening.
Okay, so it's a skill that you can work on.
You can work on it.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got active listening preparation, anchoring cultural nuances, leverage, and emotional intelligence.
That's a lot.
It is a lot to process.
Yeah.
But Margin World doesn't stop there.
Oh, no.
They also dedicate a good chunk of the episode to comment negotiation pitfalls. Mistakes we all make, even the pros.
It's a good reality check.
Right.
They talk about the danger of like falling in love with the deal.
Oh, yeah.
And becoming so invested in the process that you lose sight of your own goals and best interests.
It's easy to get swept up in it.
It really is.
You get excited about the prospect of something.
And then you're making concessions you don't even realize.
Exactly.
They also warn against becoming too rigid in your demands.
Okay.
Which can lead to deadlocks and missed opportunities.
Right.
They use this example of this high-profile merger that totally fell apart because both companies were so entrenched in their positions.
Oh, no.
They were unwilling to compromise.
Wow.
It's a cautionary tale.
It is.
Margin World reminds listeners that flexibility and the ability to adapt are like key traits of successful negotiators. They even suggest practicing saying no more often.
No.
Not out of like stubbornness, but as a way to protect your own interests and maintain a healthy balance of power in the negotiation.
Interesting. So no is not always a bad word.
No, it's not always a bad word.
Okay. Now, I love how Margin World doesn't just stay in, like, the boardroom.
Yeah.
They connect all these concepts back to our everyday lives.
They make it clear that negotiation isn't just for CEOs and diplomats. It's something we all do all the time.
Yeah.
Whether you're buying a car, haggling over rent, or even just deciding what to have for dinner.
Oh, yeah.
These principles apply.
Interesting.
They give this example of trying to get a lower price on a product.
Okay. Like if you're at a store or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of just demanding a discount, you can highlight the value you bring as a customer.
Okay.
Maybe you're a repeat buyer, or you're willing to buy in bulk. It's about framing your request in a way that benefits both parties.
It's like a more collaborative approach to getting a discount.
It is. It's like a subtle shift in mindset.
Yeah.
But it can make a big difference.
Okay.
Margin World encourages listeners to start seeing negotiation opportunities everywhere and to practice these skills in low-stakes situations to build confidence for the bigger challenges.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Now, before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive,
Okay.
Margin World briefly touches on the final stage of any negotiation, closing the deal.
Right.
And it's not just about shaking hands and walking away.
No.
They emphasize the importance of clear communication, addressing any lingering concerns,
Right.
and ensuring that everyone's on the same page about the next step.
Everyone's got to be on board.
Right. And often this involves actually putting the agreement in writing to avoid any misunderstandings down the road.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
They offer some practical tips for solidifying agreements,
Okay.
ensuring everyone feels heard and setting the stage for a smooth implementation of the agreed-upon terms.
Okay.
They also touch on the importance of celebrating successes, even small ones, to build momentum and confidence for future negotiations.
I like that we often focus so much on the struggle
Right.
that we forget to celebrate the wins.
It's important to recognize those wins.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we've only just scratched the surface here.
Oh, yeah.
So much more to come. Join us for part 2, where we'll delve even deeper into the psychology of negotiation and explore some specific tactics you can use to improve your outcomes.
I'm excited.
I am too. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Welcome back to the deep dive. It's exciting to be continuing this exploration of negotiation.
It is. We covered so much ground already, but there's still a lot more to uncover.
Yeah, a lot more to dive into.
In this part, Margin World really gets into the nitty-gritty of negotiation tactics and strategies.
Okay.
And they start by emphasizing that it's all a psychological game.
Oh, right. It really is.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the human factors that drive decision-making.
Yeah.
And then knowing how to kind of leverage those factors to your advantage.
Okay, and one of the most powerful psychological tactics they discuss is framing.
Framing.
Now, I got to be honest, I was a little skeptical at first.
Really?
Yeah, like how much can the way you present information really matter?
You'd be surprised.
Okay.
It matters a lot more than you might think. So Margin World uses this example of negotiating the price of a product.
Okay.
You could say, this product costs $100.
Okay.
Or you could say, for an investment of just $100, you get all these amazing benefits.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's the same information.
Same information.
But have a completely different feel.
Completely different.
Yeah.
The first one just highlights the cost.
Yeah, it's very transactional.
Right. But the second one emphasizes the value you're getting.
Okay, paints a picture.
Right, exactly.
Interesting.
So by framing your proposals in a positive light, highlighting the benefits and minimizing the perceived costs, you can make them a lot more appealing.
Okay.
And Margin World suggests that this even works in situations where the actual numbers are non-negotiable.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's all about perception.
And so how they're positioned.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
It is.
Okay, so what else did they have up their sleeve?
Well, they talk about the power of reciprocity.
Oh, reciprocity.
Yeah.
I like that word.
It's this fundamental human tendency to want to return favors.
Yeah, like you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Exactly. And Margin World suggests that you can strategically use this principle in your negotiations.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're willing to concede on a point that's important to the other party, they're much more likely to reciprocate and make a concession on something that you value.
Okay, so it's not about being stubborn.
Not at all.
But about strategically giving and taking.
Exactly.
To kind of build that sense of obligation.
It's a mutual obligation, yeah.
Gotcha.
So it's a dance.
Okay.
Not a battle.
Yeah.
And it's important to note that it's not about manipulation.
Okay.
Genuine reciprocity builds trust.
Yeah.
And it leads to better long-term relationships.
Okay, so we've got framing and reciprocity. Now, this is something that resonates with me personally. Managing expectations.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
I tend to go into negotiations with really high hopes, and then even when I get like a decent outcome, I still end up feeling kind of disappointed.
Yeah, I've been there.
Because I was hoping for more.
It's a common trap.
Right.
And Margin World stresses the importance of setting realistic expectations.
Yeah.
If you go into a negotiation thinking you're going to get everything you want,
Yeah.
you're setting yourself up for frustration.
So how do you find that balance between being realistic and still aiming high?
Well, they suggest that one way to manage expectations is to communicate your needs and priorities clearly, like right from the start.
Okay.
So this helps prevent misunderstandings.
Okay.
And it ensures that everyone's on the same page from the get-go.
So everyone's aligned on what the goals are?
Yeah.
Okay.
It also sounds like it's important to be prepared to walk away if the deal isn't meeting your needs.
Yeah. Even if you've invested a lot of time and energy.
Even if you had, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Knowing your walkaway point is crucial.
Okay.
It gives you this sense of power, and it prevents you from making concessions that you're going to regret later.
It's tough, but so important.
It is.
Okay, this next tactic from Margin World is really intriguing.
Oh, yeah.
Using silence strategically.
Silence.
Is that really a thing?
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Sometimes just pausing after the other party makes an offer or statement can actually create a sense of pressure.
Okay.
And prompt them to either elaborate or even improve their offer.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like you're giving them the space to rethink or come up with something better.
Exactly. And it can be really effective if you've already kind of established rapport and a sense of trust with the other party.
Right. They're not going to think you're just ignoring them.
Right.
Okay.
They'll be more likely to interpret your silence as like thoughtful consideration rather than disinterest.
Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Now, Margin World also dives into the importance of nonverbal communication.
Of course, body language is huge.
All right. Something we all know on some level.
Yeah.
But they really break it down.
Yeah. Body language, tone of voice, facial expressions, all of it.
Yeah.
All of these things can convey volumes, often more than words themselves.
Like a secret language.
A secret language, exactly.
Yeah.
And Margin World encourages listeners to become fluent in this language.
Okay.
You know, so being mindful of your own nonverbal cues and learning to read the other party's body language can give you these valuable insights into their true feelings and intentions.
So, for example, if someone is saying they're open to your proposal, but their arms are crossed, and they're avoiding eye contact, you know, something's not quite right.
Yeah, you know, something's up.
Their body's saying something different.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about looking beyond the words and paying attention to the subtle signals.
Okay, so we've got framing reciprocity, managing expectations, silence, nonverbal communication.
That's a lot.
It's a lot to keep in mind.
It is.
But Margin World argues that all of these tactics are ultimately more effective when you have a strong foundation of rapport with the other party.
That's such a crucial point.
Right?
They really emphasize the importance of beating that positive emotional connection.
Okay.
So taking the time to find common ground, showing genuine interest in the other person, and creating a sense of trust can make the whole negotiation process so much smoother and more productive.
So it's about shifting from like an adversarial mindset to more of a partnership mindset.
Exactly.
Okay.
And this can be especially important in complex negotiations that involve multiple stakeholders and like a long-term relationship.
Right, so you're going to be working with these people.
You're going to be working with these people.
Okay.
And building rapport takes effort.
Yeah.
And intentionality.
Okay.
It might involve things like active listening, sharing personal anecdotes, or even just remembering details about the other person's life outside of the negotiation.
Like you were actually listening.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Okay, those little gestures can go a long way.
They do.
Okay, now I know Margin World focuses on like business and deal making.
Yeah.
But I'm curious how all this applies to our everyday lives.
Right.
Can we really use these tactics when we're haggling over the price of a used bike.
Totally.
Really.
Yeah.
Or trying to get our kids to eat their vegetables.
Of course.
Come on.
That's the beauty of these principles. They're universally applicable.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're dealing with a car salesman, your boss, your spouse, or even your toddler. These same psychological dynamics are at play.
So if I'm trying to negotiate a better rate on my car insurance, could I use framing to my advantage?
Definitely.
Okay.
Instead of just focusing on the cost of the premium, you could frame it as an investment in peace of mind and financial security.
Right. You're not just paying for insurance.
Right.
You're getting peace of mind.
Exactly.
Okay.
Highlight the benefits, minimize the perceived costs. Or if you're trying to get your kids to do their chores, you could use the principle of reciprocity.
Okay, like if you clean your room, we can go get ice cream.
That's a great example. You're offering them something they value in exchange for their cooperation.
Okay.
Just remember to be genuine.
Yeah.
And make it a win-win.
Okay.
And what about using silence strategically in a conflict with a coworker?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Like if they're being really unreasonable about a project deadline, that could be very effective.
Okay.
Sometimes just pausing and listening attentively can give them the space to calm down and articulate their needs more clearly.
So instead of getting defensive.
Right.
Okay.
It allows you to gather information and respond more thoughtfully.
Right.
Rather than reacting impulsively.
Okay, so sometimes silence can be golden.
It really can.
It's fascinating how these seemingly simple tactics can such a profound impact on our interaction
It is.
with others.
And Margin World does such a good job of demystifying these concepts and making them accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
They really empower you to see negotiation as a skill that can be learned and improved upon with practice and intentionality.
It's not something you're just born with.
Right.
Okay.
We've been develop it.
Now, we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive.
We have.
But Margin World doesn't shy away from the really tough stuff.
Oh, no.
So in the final part,
we're
going to be exploring how to deal with difficult people.
The fun stuff.
Right.
I love it.
Navigate power imbalances and even address the ethical considerations that come up in negotiation.
Oh, right.
It's where the rubber meets the road.
We're getting down to the nitty-gritty here.
Exactly. We'll be looking at strategies for staying calm, under pressure, setting boundaries, and walking away when necessary.
I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
So good.
Welcome back to the deep dive for the final part of our exploration of negotiation. We've covered a lot of ground, from the power of listening and framing to the importance of emotional intelligence. But Margin World doesn't shy away from the really tough stuff.
Yeah, they really get into the trenches in this final part.
They do.
Tackling those challenges of dealing with difficult people and navigating power imbalances.
Yeah.
Situations that can make even the most seasoned negotiator sweat a little.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know, I've definitely been in those situations. I remember this one negotiation where the other person was just constantly interrupting, throwing out insults, just trying to throw me off my game.
Oh, yeah. Those types.
Yeah, it was rough.
Margin World has some great advice for dealing with those types of people.
Okay, good.
Their first tip is pretty simple, but so crucial. Stay calm and composed.
Okay.
It's so easy to get sucked into their emotional whirlwind, you know?
Right, like their energy.
Yeah, but it's important to remember that their behavior is often a tactic. It's a way to try to gain an advantage.
So it's like recognizing that it's a game.
Yeah.
And not taking it personally.
Right.
Which is easier said than done.
Way easier said than done.
But Margin World suggests that practicing mindfulness techniques, like deep breathing or visualization, can really help you stay grounded in those high-pressure moments.
Oh, for sure. Taking those moments to just kind of center yourself.
Yeah, regroup.
Yeah.
Okay.
They also recommend using empathy strategically.
Oh, okay.
Now, this doesn't mean you have to agree with them or condone their bad behavior.
Right.
But it's about trying to understand their perspective. Like, what might be driving their actions? Are they feeling insecure, threatened?
Okay.
Sometimes just acknowledging their frustration or concerns can help diffuse the tension and create an opening for a more, productive conversation.
It's like taking the wind out of their sails.
Yeah.
But what about when someone's being truly unreasonable or disrespectful? Margin World doesn't just advocate for being a pushover, right?
Oh, definitely not. They emphasize the importance of setting really clear boundaries.
Okay.
You know, if someone is being verbally abusive or crossing a line, it's okay to politely but firmly address the issue. You could say something like, I understand you're frustrated, but I need you to speak to me respectfully, or I'm happy to continue this conversation when we can both communicate calmly.
Right. It's about protecting your own interests.
Exactly.
And maintaining a professional level of interaction.
Yeah.
Even when the other person isn't playing by the rules.
Right. And Margin World reminds us that sometimes, despite our best efforts, we simply can't reach an agreement with a difficult person.
Right. You can't win them all.
You can't win them all.
And that's where having a backup plan comes in.
Exactly.
Knowing your walk-away point is so crucial.
Yeah, it gives you the confidence to walk away from a deal that's just not serving your best interests.
Okay, so we've got some strategies for dealing with those difficult people.
Yeah.
But what about when the power dynamic is inherently imbalanced?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're negotiating with a huge corporation or someone who has a lot more experience and expertise than you do.
Yeah, that can feel intimidating.
It can.
Margin World acknowledges that power imbalances are just a reality of negotiation.
Yeah.
But they stress that even in these situations, you still have options and strategies.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So what are they?
Well, the key is to focus on the things you can control.
Okay, makes sense.
And first and foremost, know your worth. Just
Mhm.
because the other party has more power doesn't mean they automatically get to dictate all the terms.
Right.
It's about having confidence in your own value proposition and being willing to advocate for your needs even when it feels intimidating.
It's about knowing that you deserve to be at the table.
Exactly.
Okay.
They also suggest that you can leverage your own strengths even in the face of a power imbalance.
Okay. How so?
So, for example, if you're a smaller, more agile company, you might be able to highlight your flexibility and responsiveness as an advantage. Or if you're less experienced in a particular field, you might have really strong relationships or a unique skill set that you can bring to the table.
So it's about finding those leverage points,
Exactly.
even when they're not immediately obvious.
Yeah, and Margin World also talks about the power of building coalitions.
Coalitions,
Yeah.
like teaming up.
Yeah. Sometimes the best way to level the playing field is to find allies who can support your position.
Okay.
So this might involve connecting with other stakeholders who share your interests.
Right.
Or even just finding a mentor who can offer some guidance and advice.
It's about recognizing that you don't have to go it alone.
Exactly. There's strength in numbers.
Okay. Now, one of the things that really stood out to me in Margin World is their emphasis on the ethical aspects of negotiation.
Oh, yeah.
They make it clear that it's not about winning at all costs.
No, it's not about being cutthroat.
It's about operating with integrity and respect.
Yeah, and finding those mutually beneficial solutions that are fair and sustainable.
Right. It's not just about the short-term win. It's about building something that's going to last.
Yeah, and they caution against using deceptive tactics or trying to manipulate the other party.
Okay.
Because in the long run, your reputation is your most valuable asset.
Right. Your word is your bond.
And building trust and credibility is essential for long-term success.
So don't burn bridges.
Exactly.
Margin World also encourages listeners to consider the broader implications of their decisions.
Yeah.
You know, a negotiation might seem like this purely transactional exchange, but it can have ripple effects that extend beyond the immediate parties involved.
Right. Those decisions have consequences.
So it's about taking a step back and asking yourself, is this deal truly fair?
Yeah.
Am I acting in a way that aligns with my values? Am I creating a positive impact?
Yeah. Those are powerful questions to ask yourself.
They are.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the art of negotiation, I think the key takeaway from Margin World is that it's a skill that can be learned and developed.
Absolutely.
It's not something you're either born with or not. With the right mindset and the right tools, anyone can become a more effective negotiator.
And it's a skill that can really empower us in all areas of our lives.
Absolutely. Not just in business.
Not just in business.
They can help us build stronger relationships, achieve our goals, and navigate all the complexities of human interaction with greater confidence and effectiveness.
I love that.
Me too. So the next time you find yourself in a negotiation, big or small,
Yeah.
remember what we've discussed.
Take a deep breath.
Ground yourself and approach the situation with a spirit of collaboration
Yeah.
and a commitment to finding common ground.
And remember, negotiation isn't a battle to be won or lost. It's an opportunity to connect, to create, and to build something better together.
That's a great way to put it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, this was fun.
It was. Until next time, happy negotiating.